What's happening, my friend?
Hello, Travis. Happy New Week.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We could just, re-release this episode for New Year's and just come out of the gate like that.
Right, exactly. You know, one of my family listeners asked Debbie if something was wrong. Evidently I must have sounded down or something on one of the. I don't even know which one, if it was the very last one or the one before. But just so everybody knows, everything's great. It couldn't be better. Had the best Friday ever, and
well, you had a lot of
weekend.
shit going on. I mean, we've talked about some of it, but is that I didn't notice if you were down because you're such a professional showman. I guess you give it all for the podcast, and when you're angry and cranky and you're in a full get off my lawn attitude, it comes through. But you're giving it all for the audience.
Yeah, no,
and we appreciate that.
Everything's good. All the medical stuff is good, and we've talked a little bit about it. I'm not going to rehash anything, but just in case anybody gives a crap, I'm good.
You will be around for the foreseeable podcasting future.
There are no imminent medical issues, so thank God for small favors. Fully immunized, waiting to get my booster shot when that becomes available. And, just ready to tackle the issues of today. I'm not sure what's on your mind. There's so much.
Well, I was going to tell you, though, before we get started, I saw your car over the weekend. I was driving around.
Yeah.
The zombie green BMW that we've referenced that was on the cover of Car and Driver,
Yes.
or whatever that magazine was.
Yes.
But I actually saw one in person.
Yeah.
It looks badass.
It's a very popular car.
I had never seen
color.
it before.
It looks terrible on the magazine cover. Better in person. Still weird.
It looks better in person.
Lime green, but
as you can see by my water bottle here, I'm a fan of I call it zombie
green. Yeah, no, it's cool. There's the new, what is it that I read? Road and Track. No, Car and Driver. Yeah, Car and Driver, I guess. Anyway, pretty good breakdown on what's new for 22. What I particularly read that magazine to see what's happening in BMW. There's a lot of models. A lot of things going on. They've changed around. They are making the switch over to electric. They've been playing around with it for a while. The i3, I think, was the little square, skinny wheeled one. That one's dead. Going forward, that car's gone. There's a sedan.
You think they have to call it the i3 because everything's like because of iPhone?
I don't know.
Makes it all tech.
It's been, the first one I bought in 2002 was a 2000 528i. So it's been their thing for a long time. I don't think it has anything to do with iPhone.
I guess that is true, huh?
Yeah, 528i. I have a 2013 535i. So I don't know when it's electric. It's a different designation, and it's complicated, right?
Car. BMW. BMW E.
I saw in San Diego when we were down there a week or two ago, I saw an M8 down there, right? It's an 8 Series M car. And that's coming back and being refined.
So the M, like the grill is different, right? It has that red, white, and blue badge.
the M is
whatever that is.
Yeah, the M is the M car designation is more than just badging, right? It's typically. So there's a few weird things. You can get some models with M trim. For instance, my 2013 535i has M trim. It has an M steering wheel. It has an M car front end.
And what do you get for that?
Well, it's usually typically a little bit more aggressive kind of trim level. But it doesn't make it an M car. An M car have the highest powered engines and the most aggressive suspension and stuff like that. So if it's an actual M car, more than just trim, it's quite different. It's usually
faster,
600-700 horsepower, to be honest with you. So faster. That car that we saw down there in San Diego. You and I both saw it, right? Yeah. That was a coupe, so
2-door,
the big ass 2-door. I mean, I'm not sure I could open that door wide enough to get out if I was parked next to somebody. That's why I don't have a coupe, because I'm afraid of that. But coupes always look better. 2-doors always look better than 4-doors, and hold their value better. But awesome looking car. But a lot of different series, so it's complicated, and a lot of cars not available. I was just telling you earlier that I was had some I was stuck in some traffic next to a Mazda dealership over the weekend and noticed that there were no cars on the lot.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, so and I've been talking to some customers that are involved in the Port of LA, and it's a cluster down there. We're heading for not only shortages on the shelves of stores, various stores and things, but supply chain problems should get worse, and this is driving inflation up.
I know, but it's wild because here in Southern California, for people who don't know, we have the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach together, where these big ocean freight vessels come in, and even I think at the start of COVID, when things started to come back around, there was reports, 30 vessels waiting to come in. 40, maybe upwards of 50, but I think it's even surpassed that now. I heard something like maybe 60 or 70 vessels.
I thought it was more, so I'm going to refrain. I was
maybe
going to say
is
700.
No, it's not that high.
I don't know. It's a lot. Well, according to the person I talked to, we're on the verge of gridlock in the port.
But what was the other thing you were telling me? That the Port of Los Angeles is the only non-automated port in the country?
That's what he was telling me. And him and his family pretty hooked up in the port, right, with the union and everything. It's evidently the only major port in the United States that isn't fully automated. So it's slow. We're in this port to unload or load vessels to begin with. Then the other thing that I didn't know, he said that 5 years ago, a freighter coming in with 500 sea containers was big, or 5,000 sea containers was considered large. They standardly come in now with 15,000. So
that is crazy.
Yeah. So it's this problem in the Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach is quickly going to become a crisis situation.
But what I don't understand is, go back to COVID when the whole world was shut down. I always thought that these vessels were out there because there was no labor, because everybody was told you had to shelter in place, and there was nobody there to offload the ships. Well, now, fast forward a year and a half, almost 2 years later, people are back to work. The vessels are out there. I mean, of course there's a disruption in the supply chain, but at least the shit has left China. It's here off the coast. It's on a boat ready to come on board. Why can't we get it offloaded? What is the problem?
Well, evidently there are a multitude of problems. There's still labor issues. There are still not enough longshoremen to load or unload the vessels. There's still a lot of people that are not back to work, and there are union issues involved and things like that are COVID related. There are no chassis. So every one of these sea containers that comes in off the ship needs to get onto a container, onto a truck chassis, and then and then there needs to be a tractor or a big truck to hook up to that to take it wherever it's going. There are not enough chassis.
To drive it.
Yeah, there are not enough chassis. There are not enough empty containers. This is a shortage of everything involved with shipping and trucking. It's all just and it's just kind of turning into a feedback loop on itself, right?
Can we blame this on unions, though? Can we cite this as a reason why we need to get rid of the unions?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't want any union people coming after me. So,
but still, I mean, go back to one of the talking points of the Democrats, and I see it a lot on Twitter. On the Build Back Better tweets from the Democrats, and one of the things
the only social media thing you're going to see anything on today, right?
Yeah. What's up? So here we are, October
4th,
whatever it is, 4th.
Yeah.
And all of the Facebook ether, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp is down.
They're all down.
What do you make of that?
I don't know. I'm waiting for a civil war or something to break out. How long can these influencers and all these stupid assholes go without posting?
I thought that was on purpose, because wasn't Facebook testifying again for Congress last week?
What am I supposed to do with the picture I took of the bananas in my cereal this morning? Where the fuck am I supposed to put that?
I thought it was a big fuck you. Like, Facebook is under so much criticism, and they're under a microscope. And I think they were. Somebody from Facebook was testifying last week again.
Yeah. Well, you didn't see 60 Minutes, huh?
No. Was that about the Instagram child thing?
Yeah. No. So 60 Minutes had a big article. There's a whistleblower. So she is a algorithm specialist. She's worked at some of the other big techs, Google and this and that, but she specifically signed up with Facebook prior to the presidential election, and was a part of a special group they had to try to keep election interference down to a minimum compared to what it was in 2016. And she says that actually was pretty effective. But once the actual election was over, they shut down that group and they pulled the safeguards that they had put on during the election season away. And that's partially responsible for Facebook being the main organizing place for the January 6th problem. I know,
but
you don't like the word insurrection, so
you can call it whatever. But is that really news though? Like, why would just on its surface though, right? Why would it make sense to keep an election type guardrail, if you will, up after the election?
Well, it wasn't just that guardrail. It was a whole lot of guardrail. It was a whole lot of stuff that they were doing because they were under scrutiny because of the election. But then, as always, they let their profit motive get in the way of public safety and just stopped doing almost everything they were doing. This is everything I said, right, in prior to the election, everything about Facebook, when we've talked about I'm forgetting the term of it. What a surprise.
With the antitrust?
The antitrust and everything, right? So, but here's the thing. Just talk and just, look, this is my opinion that's going on this now. She took hundreds of thousands of documents, tens of thousands.
What did they say?
Of internal Facebook documentation that they know all about this, that they're fully aware of it. And the documentation that she took shows and evidently proves that they time after time choose their profit motive over doing things that would be in the public interest. And, I don't think that's a big surprise to anybody. I mean, we're all capitalism, right?
Right. So, that's not newsworthy, I don't think.
But here's the thing. They say the exact opposite in public. And let's remember something. This is a publicly traded company. So you are not allowed as a publicly traded company to lie to your investors. So if you're out there on your public-facing comments saying, hey, we have safeguards in place, we're making improvements, we're watching for the misinformation, we are going to try to protect teenage girls and minors and this and that, and that's what you're saying publicly, but then internally you're saying, fuck it, we're not doing that.
Well, listen.
And she didn't just release this to the press or go on 60 Minutes. She's being covered under the whistleblower statutes. She went to the Justice Department and the Congress, and I think this is going to be kind of serious for them.
Well, you've said a lot there. So if we were to unpack it, the only part that my ears kind of perked up is, did I understand you correctly that Facebook was essentially reporting publicly that we've got these safeguards in place that we established prior to the election because we knew there were bad actors on here. They were going to use our site to, pass along bad information. Mm-hmm. And then after the election, they took it down, but they said they didn't, that they still had the same safety elements in place for all these months. And that really is the issue is, I guess, to your point about, lying to your shareholders.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a private company, you really are not required to tell the truth about anything.
But you're not really required to do it either. Your point that you're making is that they said they did it and they didn't do it.
Right. And they have been lying to their investors, and this trove of information is likely to show that. And then on the same,
do you think investors care?
I think they might.
As long as they're making money on the stock, they don't care.
I think that then there's another thing that happened today, the Pandora. So they're calling this Pandora, not Pandora's box, but Pandora files. I don't know. This is a ton of financial information coming from 15 different financial news sources.
This is on the advertising
around the
thing?
world, and this is detailed information about where rich people are. Are hiding their money offshore and blah blah blah, all kinds of.
Was
stuff
that
like
coming? That information came out of Facebook?
No, it's completely separate.
All right, well, let's get to that, but let's go back to Facebook for a minute.
Okay.
So,
well, here's the thing: it's off today, so That seems funny.
Well, it's Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.
Yeah. They're all down.
The only one that I give a shit about is WhatsApp.
Right, I know.
That's an actual tool that you and I use. I use it for business,
right.
international business.
Yeah, to confirm that we were going to do this today, I sent you a WhatsApp.
What happened?
And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, WhatsApp. And then I Googled it. I'm like, hey, who owns WhatsApp? And it's like Facebook, dumb shit. And so I'm like, oops, that's.
Did it show that it sent though the message?
Didn't show anything. It just, my message to you on WhatsApp is there, but it didn't go anywhere, and you didn't get it, right?
No, I didn't get it.
So, so I had to just send you a regular text on Apple.
But so here's where I was going with this. Maybe Facebook shut the whole thing down as a big fuck you to the regulators, so that people get pissed off and say, hey, see, these are valuable products and tools and services that bring good to society, and people are going to be up in arms. Maybe they'll protest. I don't know, and they'll demand that Facebook come back online with no regulation, no bullshit from Congress. Let them live. Do you think there's any possibility that could be the case?
Have you acquired stock in Facebook since the last time we talked about this?
I have never had any interest in buying Facebook stock. And to go back to the point I made a minute ago is I don't think investors care about anything other than making a return on their investment.
Well, you probably know more about that than I do. I don't think it's going to be the investors, though. It's probably the Justice Department.
I've never understood Facebook as an investment, and I guess maybe a lot of people don't. Do they really care if they bought Facebook at whatever, $30 a share, and now it's worth $100? I don't even know what it's worth. Matt, what is it worth? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But the point is, I never saw the long game with Facebook thinking this is something that's a viable company. I still maintain that we don't need to regulate it to death. It's just going to go away on its own when we all run out of care about going onto Facebook.
Do you know how long Facebook has been in existence?
2004.
Okay.
I'm just going to guess.
That's going to be pretty good, I think, because it's 17 years. So is that 2004, 2003?
I can't do the math.
I think it is. Subtract that from 21.
When did you get off MySpace?
Yeah. The funny part, and that's my favorite joke. Okay, I put this on my MySpace.
Right.
But MySpace came and went, and I never saw it.
I was never on MySpace. No. I was briefly on Facebook.
I've never had a Facebook account. So I do have Instagram, so
most people
basically the same thing.
I was off of it before this last election, so I really didn't see whatever there was to see or any of that shit. But when I was on it, it was basically, yes, I understand people, extended families, they have photos and shit like that. But most of it was just people posting shit about how fabulous their lives were. Always on vacation. I've always got this expensive drink in my hand. Look at this fancy car I'm driving, and look at this celebrity I ran into. Yeah. They're not saying that. They're just posting these pictures about how wonderful they are. It's like, fuck off.
Well, I guess the thing about Instagram that's kind of coming out as another part of this story from the whistleblower is that in 2018, Facebook made changes to their algorithm that amped up the ability of the algorithm to create what's the word, anger,
but in an attempt to drive ad revenue, right? Wasn't the whole they're creating anger, which creates excitement, which creates clicks.
Engagement. So the word is engagement, right? So, but that's what you said. That's what you were saying. Clicks and.
What do we see as we're talking about this?
Outages and outrage.
We have on the screen here. What is it? Facebook stock plunges 4.9%.
5%.
Is that really a plunge?
Who cares? Sounds more like a skip. I don't know.
But is that really even a news story that they made changes to the algorithms to increase engagement?
I just think it's important that the word is out there, and that the public hears this from credible sources. I mean, this is exactly what I was saying 6 months ago, or whatever it was when I was rattling on about Facebook. It's the algorithm that encourages anger, which causes the most engagement, and so their attitude is always, here's the thing. If we back off the algorithm so it creates less anger among Facebook followers, people will not stay on the platform as long, and we will lose money. So fuck that. We're not doing that.
And how is that a news story? I agree that that's what happened, but how is that a news story?
It's only, you know what?
Duh.
It's only, I get it. But I think the big problem that you're gonna hear about is the public denial that that's the case from Zuckerberg or whichever one of his stupid lackeys they put up there.
Is Facebook a good product, do you think?
No.
It's shit, right?
It's shit.
So like other shit products.
Well, it's too big and it
to
needs,
fail?
No, it's not too big.
Don't
to
say
fail.
it's too. What do you mean it's too big?
It's too
In what
big.
way?
It's too look. So I mean, I just look. Let me go back and finish what I was saying. All I really want to see is that the story gets out and Facebook. If there are legal consequences, they should face them, right? As far as lying to their investors and breaking those kind of laws, it's a huge publicly traded company. And then as far as what they say to the public, I think it's important that the truth is out there, that they promote anger among their followers because it promotes engagement, and that translates into ad revenue for them. And so if that is the case, then we can't look at them as some benevolent,
I don't think they're
member of society.
Yeah,
they're not. They're
right.
malevolent, and
But even still,
they're dangerous.
But even still, shouldn't there be? And I'm sure there is when you sign up for Facebook. Isn't there something in the terms conditions that you're signing that says, "Hey, there's anger beyond these gates, folks. There's
Really?
all kinds of bullshit that's going to create user engagement to make you angry and fight with one another."
I don't think that's. I don't believe that is stated anywhere in the terms
But
and
even-
conditions. But even then, Travis, we all know nobody can read.
I
that.
understand, but at some point, like even Disneyland, which I was recently at, there's something outside that says, "Hey, if you come in here and you get COVID, you can't sue us." And I'm pretty sure if you fall out of a roller coaster on your ticket purchase, it says you can't sue us then either.
Okay.
Right? So if you're going to use Facebook, are they liable for the?
I'm not saying they're liable. I'm saying I want the public to hear the real story about what motivates Facebook and what generates the policies that they operate under, not the lies from Mark Zuckerberg or his stupid talking head lackeys that show up on the media all the time. You didn't see Mark. We just saw a picture of Mark Zuckerberg on CNBC on the monitor.
Same old Caesar haircut.
Yeah, same shit, man. And I don't know who this fucking freak is here.
I don't know.
Fast money. But he's not from Facebook. So here's the thing: it's not Zuckerberg, right? He just puts up one lackey talking head after another to just restate their party line, which is a lie.
Is your real beef the fact that they're just lying to people, or that it's this malevolent online place where people do bad shit?
I think for me it's that their own internal research shows that they are causing serious damage to various groups, members of Facebook, users such as young women, teenage girls, hate groups, political election stuff, and even when they identify it with their internal research and stuff, they internally say, "Yeah, we're not going to fix this."
Which I don't understand how anybody could take them seriously if they make statements that they are going to fix it or they're doing the right thing. But whose responsibility is it to fix it? In other words, if those young girls or the people that you just mentioned don't go on Facebook, they're not exposed to that shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
And the point is what?
Well, the point is, who is supposed to fix this problem? Who is supposed to either break up Facebook, disband Facebook, or make it better? I don't know.
Well, I mean, the only person responsible for fixing anything on Facebook is Facebook. And if they're not going to do it, then we need to hold them accountable for that. And that would be by, hey, you guys are a bunch of fucking liars, and you've been lying to us, and you're a net negative for society. You're malevolent. They can always they always hide in this. Well, we didn't know. This has only been around for so long, and there are things we don't know, and we're doing our best, but it's a big problem, and we're doing the best we can, which is a fucking lie. You're not doing the best you can if you have internal data that tells you about things years ahead of when you've come out and said, oh, we just found out about it. I mean, so just like, listen, if this was GM or Ford or, you know, any number of companies that sell shit to the American public, and we catch them in outright lies, there would be consequences. And I just think that the same consequences should hold true for Facebook. And
I understand what you mean by consequences, but I don't think it's exactly the same. Like, pick an example. Let's say Ford makes a vehicle that has a bad airbag or something that's causing...
You mean like the one I just got replaced? So if my airbag engaged, it didn't kill me and my passengers?
Exactly. Was that on your truck?
Yeah, that was on my truck.
Okay, so that was a Ford.
Yeah.
And you got a recall notice or something. But let's say they knew that the airbag on that truck was bad and they didn't send out a recall notice and they just tried to bury it until people died. But that's actually a product that they produced. They created that content and sold it to you. But Facebook doesn't create any original content, right? They're just a funnel, if you will, for crazy people to go on there. It's like a circus. Don't you think that's different, though?
I don't.
Yeah, but what are they creating?
Well, first off, we are their products. So
what are we, cyborgs?
Well, I mean, that we're their product. I mean, the amount of people that they have watching is what they sell to advertisers.
I understand, but you and I, as we sit here, we're not affected by Facebook. Why? Because we just said we're not on.
Are we? Are we not? I mean,
well, we're talking about it because it's a news story.
There was substantial Russian interference in the 2016 that contributed to the United States electing fucktard as president. Yeah, we're affected by it negatively in the most extreme sense.
So it's like the whole COVID and the vaccine arguments is that we're
it's not like that.
We're affected by the decisions that people make who are unvaccinated. So what's the solution then?
Well, the solution is for the truth to come out and for the public to hear it, and not just the fucking lies that come out of Mark Zuckerberg or his lackeys. That's all I'm saying.
So that's
what's happening.
That's what's happening through these committees.
Plus, I mean, she's testifying in front of Congress. The Justice Department or the SEC or whoever it is going to. It's the Exchange Commission, right? They're the ones that govern the regulations around publicly traded companies. I think they have broken the law significantly in relationship to these issues, and I think they should be punished accordingly. Is it money? I don't know. Some other kind of issue. But whatever it needs to be, it should be. And because you just have to fight back against the lies that are coming out of Mark Zuckerberg's face. He's completely a sociopathic presence at that company. He should be ousted. And if that company has any net value to the country, a board of directors with the best interests of the company and the users in mind should be put in place.
I don't think they can.
Over.
I think he's got some deal that he structured when they first went public that I don't know if he's got 50.1% ownership, but whatever he's got.
He's in control.
He's in control, yeah. However, the stock split went down.
Yeah.
He's ultimately
in
control.
For me, it would just be, hey, you know what? Let's make sure the public is getting the true story about what they're lying about and what they're really trying to do and not trying to do. Because the truth is that in a heartbeat, in one day, they could fix all the problems at Facebook. They have more money than Jesus Christ Superstar, and they can do it. And any other drivel you hear from them about how it's hard and it's expensive, who gives a fuck? You're
fixing
a
it would
billionaire.
Be ultimately, I guess,
just fix it.
Greater control of the content that goes out.
Just change your algorithm so that isn't just set up to create anger among people and divisions, and just for the sake of engagement. Make just a little bit less money and make it better for society.
And so, humor me here. When you say things like the algorithms to create what is
engagement?
Engagement over
anger
to anger people.
Right.
What does that look like? So in other words, I have a belief and they're going to have some formula that I see an ad that differs from what I believe. Therefore, I'm going to get pissed off about it.
The algorithms push content. See, you're your excuse for them is that, well, they don't create the content. That's not their product. It's the algorithm on Facebook. When you look at something, you see something and says, all Black Lives Matter people are communists and or some shit.
And let me stop you there. The person who put that on Facebook is taking money from them, right? Theoretically, for advertising dollars.
Not from them.
Who are they getting it
somebody
from?
Somebody posts that content,
yeah.
right? And they let it go up there.
Well, how do they monetize it?
Well, it's the average. It's because they're going to push 10 more anti-Black Lives Matter things at you.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep you engaged and make you more angry, so you stay more engaged and you keep scrolling and you keep pushing and you keep seeing more advertising.
Oh, so regular advertisements for Coca-Cola.
Right.
But I'm on Facebook for an hour getting angry at people who are anti-Black Lives Matter, and therefore I'm fucking thirsty because I'm yelling and I see this ad for Coke and I buy the Coke.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Something like that.
I see.
All right.
So they're not taking advertising dollars necessarily from, evil people who are putting bad shit out there. It's just regular, good old-fashioned American advertising.
Yeah,
and I'm keeping you on this platform, sucked in.
Yeah, and
with
even
all of my
this
shit.
even this whistleblower is saying, listen, she doesn't believe that Mark Zuckerberg ever, in the past, now, or at any time in the future, is looking to create a platform that just sows anger, division, and hatred.
Well, that's got to mean something, right?
But that he, at the same time, strictly for monetary reasons, will not take the steps that he has within his power to change that because of the monetary component.
But
right?
okay, I'm really fascinated by this, so I'm going to keep digging here. And this is not an attempt to change your mind because we know how well that goes. but think about it. What I'm hearing is the longer somebody stays engaged, the longer bad shit can happen because you're exposed to whatever the content is, and then of course I'm seeing all the ads that are on there. So are we really saying that? What's the responsibility of Facebook to keep users less engaged? Like there's some type of baby filter on there that says Facebook is so addictive and it's like crack. You can only have 20 minutes a day on Facebook.
No, it's all about what their algorithm pushes into your feed.
I know what you mean though, but so if I see something that I don't care about, I'll probably get off Facebook. So if I see shit that's engaging me, it's making me angry. In the example you used, if there's anti-Black Lives Matter stuff and I'm on here for an hour versus, I don't know, laughing babies, I'm like, fuck these laughing babies. I'm going to bail in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. That's a good example.
So, but then what we're really saying is that at some point it's how long that you're on there.
Well, look,
so the tool they're using to keep people on there is the net negative in society. But what we're really saying is the solution is to have people engaged on Facebook for a shorter amount of time.
Well, I mean, it's not the solution to have them on for a shorter amount of time. I don't care how long they're. I mean, I'm sure there's some negative effect of being on for too long, but it's not like people say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to spend an hour and 45 minutes on Facebook." When they pick up their phone and say, "Let's see what's on my feed right now," and they pull it up and there's post after post about something that the algorithm knows that triggers them and makes them angry. And once the algorithm sees that, hey, when we put up something about Black Lives Matter on this person's feed, they keep scrolling trying to find more, and we keep shoving it to them, and that keeps them on there for 2 hours instead of the 10 minutes, while they're in the head or something. Then that's what they do. And they do it regardless of what the consequences are. And that is just not, and then they lie about it. Then when they're asked about it, when they're questioned about it, nope, we don't do that. Nope, that we're working tirelessly to change that, to put up a more wide variety of content, not to, we don't want our algorithm, but they do. And they've done it, and their own internal data shows that they have made conscious decisions all along to do just that and lie about it to the public.
Maybe
I don't
in the
think
user
it's any
agreement,
more complicated than that. Huh?
Maybe in the user agreement, it should say for every hour you're on Facebook, you have to spend an hour reading the Bible.
Oh my God, user schmuser. So let's see what else.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we
It's
can
gotta be better shit than this.
Yeah, I know you brought it up, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
But let me ask you philosophically, the news. What is the old adage that you say? If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
Is there really any difference fundamentally or philosophically from something like the nightly news that has bad shit? You know, if it bleeds, we're going to watch it for an hour versus just an update on the weather. Isn't their goal to keep us watching that program for the entire hour? And in theory, they're selling us the advertising. So do you think there's a difference with something like that versus what a Facebook is doing?
I think that's a legitimate question, although I don't think
You're suspect because it's coming from me?
Yeah, I don't think the nightly news and Facebook are particularly the same thing. But I think that we could all agree that what we would like to see on, local news or national news for that matter are news segments that will add to our knowledge base and our understanding of what's going on in our society. And anytime providers, especially on public airwaves, don't do that, I think we should hold them accountable. So I think that the news programs, they're going to lead with the car crash, and I don't think anybody's going to make a federal case out of it, right? I just don't think it's really the same thing. Plus, they are on for a finite amount of time too, right? So you just can't get locked in there forever. So I'm not really sure that's a viable, comparison. But good question.
I mean, it is.
How's that for not answering?
Yeah, very slick of you, my friend. So what was this other thing about the rich hiding their money in the offshore accounts? Again, it wasn't really a news story. I think that's something that we all understand happens. We all are aware of the infamy surrounding Swiss bank accounts and the
I think
Cayman Islands.
I think the big part of what's newsworthy about this story is that what this is showing is that it's not offshore. It's not just, it's not, it's in several states like Idaho and several states in New England and stuff that have adopted policies within their state laws and their states that have made it possible for people to create financial accounts in these states and hide it. And that's always the only reason to ever do that is nefarious. And these are the exact same banking practices that the U.S. government chides repeatedly, constantly, these offshore bankings, that whatever it is, I forgot the names of them now, but you probably know better than me. Where are all the offshore
I can't
stuff?
tell you.
Yeah.
I can't tell you where I can go take my magic mushrooms, and I can't tell you where all the offshore bank accounts are.
Yeah, so I mean, the point is that one of the points of this news story is that the very thing that the U.S. government is condemning foreign governments for, where these banking practices exist, and especially islands and things like that, where it's not France or England that's engaging in this, but we're doing it. We're letting the states do it in the United States.
And not only that, we have. I read that report too, and it was a lot of people that were not Americans. Like, wasn't Putin in that thing where he had some property somewhere, like in Malibu?
No. That specific one is the King of Jordan.
That's right.
Right, and so, I mean, do I give a shit what the King of Jordan does? I don't. But the fact is, we shouldn't be letting foreign nationals, do the very thing that we condemn their countries for doing, so that
I think that's called those that live in glass
organized
houses shouldn't throw stones.
Yeah, exactly right. So, I mean, that's the newsworthiness of it. Plus, it's a lot of specifics and details, right? So I mean, that's just all kind of, and the idea is that if you get this stuff out in the public, it tamps down the activity to some degree, right? If all these people engage in these practices and it's always secret and it never comes out, then there's no disincentive for them. So just having these kind of things happen provides like, okay, well, maybe this isn't a great idea, right? So,
well, I think there was a lot of that article in particular, if I'm thinking of the same one, was kind of all over the place with the information it thought it was revealing, because it said things like setting up a company in Delaware, for example, which I think Facebook is incorporated in Delaware, or it was, and places like Delaware, Nevada, even Texas. The reasons why people go there is because the tax base is lower. So in some cases, they're saying, well, people are going to Delaware because the tax is lower, not because they're going to get out of paying tax entirely. And then in other cases, you could set up a trust and that can't be tracked. And I remember there was a big deal out of New York a couple of years ago where a lot of rich people and maybe even some foreign, crime bosses or whoever else, they were setting up LLCs in the state of New York and then buying property under that LLC, which was totally legal. But then New York passed a law that essentially, under, I want to say, the Freedom of Information Act, you could find out who the names of the owners of that LLC were. Mm-hmm. And the argument was, hey, I live, in this high rise that I paid millions of dollars for, and I have a right to know who my neighbor is who's filed this, LLC.
I saw something about Supreme Court won't turn down taking a case about New York tax, something about New York and some policy they had, and they're not going to take the case. And like, if they want to do it, they can do it. New York can do it. So yeah, I mean, look, financial secrecy and these things that you're talking about. Are there good uses for these abilities? I don't know of any. It's almost always nefarious, and it does give criminals and scam artists and organized crime and unscrupulous politicians ways to hide campaign contributions and money and PAC money and all the rest of it. None of it's good. None of it's good for us, and we should
but it's not that way every time.
Not allow it to take place.
But think about it. Let's say you are a property investor and you want to buy either a single-family home or a duplex or something. The reason why you might want to buy that under an LLC, if for no other reason, is
so I can fuck my wife out of the money when I get divorced.
No, so when you get sued by your tenants, that you're not personally liable on your home assets.
A nefarious reason.
How is that nefarious?
Well, I mean, if you're doing something where you're going to lose a lawsuit by the people you're renting to, they should have access to your
but
personal
see, therein lies
livelihood.
the problem. Anybody can sue anybody in this country, and it's only getting worse. Let's say, I don't know, make up an example. One of your tenants, someone breaks into their house.
If you want to have legal protections regarding assets for people, fine, but they should not be secret. The only reason you would have to keep something secret like that is because those tenants are supposed to be entitled to recover those damages from those landlords, and Dave said, and those landlords have figured out some nefarious, illegal way to hide.
Well, it's not illegal.
Well, it should be.
Because right? I think a lot of what was discussed in these articles is not that it was illegal, but hey, look what we've kind of uncovered that maybe most of you don't know what goes on.
If the Pandora, whatever the hell they're calling it, yeah, let's just call it Pandora for lack of we will see it on the screen here. If the Pandora files are revealing the names of landlords that are fucking tenants over, and the tenants are suing them but can't collect because the landlords have their shit in these secret things, then it should be revealed.
No, but it's not that you can't collect. It's just that the assets.
What is it?
The difference is this: why should you lose your home that you live in? The roof over your head. Let's say you are guilty, right? Why wouldn't you just lose the asset that was rented? Why should you also lose your home?
Well, if there's some legal corporate protection available for somebody, you still shouldn't be secret.
Yeah, but it's not secret.
Well, then what are we talking about?
Well, in the case of New York, for example, the owners of a limited liability company, their names weren't disclosed, and so that was the argument from the citizens of New York, because we want to know who these people are.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what good that does.
Most of the uses for these kind of financial shells are nefarious, and for the one or two possible legitimate uses, I'm not willing to allow all the criminals and all the other fuckers that are using this stuff. So, just I'm just not going to be in favor of that. So
you realize this picture that you're painting is essentially like if you could have the Mike Watkins magic wand and kind of go through society, would you to right all these wrongs? Do we need the government to come in and just fix everything, or is this going to be done through banks, or is this going to be done through how do we solve these problems? I'm
not advocating anything. I mean, here's what I can say for all the evildoers.
Yes.
God help you if I had that kind of power, because I would fuck you over. But I don't have it, and I'm not going to have it. And none of the things I'm talking about would give it to me. So
thank God.
I just think that there need to be, I mean, I find it hard to understand. I mean, I get we're trying to take opposite positions on a lot of things so we can discuss things on this. And I do get your kind of libertarian freedom die kind of
you got it.
Things, right? And I understand that, and I think it's good. And I'm trying to not lose. I used to be more like that, but I'm trying not to lose all of that and see that side of it. But still, when you're talking about something like Facebook, this is pretty simple. It's not. We talked about it a long time for such a simple thing. They are doing things that are not good for public interest. Not only are they a publicly traded company, which changes some of the dynamics on that, but they also depend on to be successful the goodwill of the public, and so. I think when it is proven that the virtual head of that company, and there's no dispute that he runs everything about Facebook, that when he spends most of his time lying to the people that participate in his platform, that should be an easy one. Hey, you're lying. You need to stop it or face the consequences. And the consequences are public opinion. And in essence, I mean, whatever, this little bit of a thing that happened on 60 Minutes, we saw a 5% drop today in the stock.
That's probably because they're offline for whatever reason.
I don't know. Now they're offline. I mean, maybe they're going to sink themselves. But, I mean, along with all of the discussions that we've had about the monopolistic way they run that company, there's just a lot of bad shit going on. And so I don't think it's complicated. I mean, when things wrong and when something like this is this wrong, this malevolent, I think it's just not really worth too much devil's advocacy, right? There's a lot of shit wrong at Facebook. It's way too powerful, and it needs to be fixed. And I think probably currently antitrust laws are insufficient to do that. So the answer, you asked me earlier what the answer was. The answer is legislation. And this is the type of thing that does require government intervention. And so I'm not the huge advocate that you try to make everybody think I am for unbridled government intervention and everything. But there are things in antitrust and this type of situation is what the government is there for, and should be used for. And these guys need to be regulated. And that's just the way it is, because unregulated, we are seeing them abuse that position repeatedly and consistently.
I guess there's some validity to that.
Your Honor.
But goddamn, I just don't want to see that.
Been a lawyer.
These fuckers the way I see it, these fuckers that go on Facebook, you get what you deserve. You know the trash that's on there.
A little bit of that. I mean, I don't 100% disagree with you about that. I mean, the way I handle my dislike for Facebook is I don't participate.
Right.
But I have an Instagram account, and I'd like to be able to use it for what I got
you
it for.
So you can share your meat.
So I can share my not easy now. So I don't want to get on any list. So I can share my smoking barbecue pictures or whatever stupid shit, right? It's like, so I don't really. I just think that it's just unnecessary that a platform like Instagram is causing young teenage girls to suffer, body issues and eating disorders,
but
and
it's not
high suicide rates.
It's not. They already have eating disorders and body issues.
But the data, listen, the internal research at Facebook, this is the part, right? I know what you're just going to say is that with or without Facebook, teenage girls have those issues. I don't disagree. But here's the part that should be making everybody, it's hard to become outraged or even mildly upset with things after the 5 or 6 years that we've had as a society where every day was one thing that was more fucking outrageous than an hour before that. We've all become numb.
What, are you referring to Trump?
Well, everything. Just everything in society over the last 5-6 years, and most of it powered by that kind of stuff. But here's the deal, right? You hear about, so you say, well, teenage girls always have high suicide rates and body image problems and eating disorders. Okay. I'm not disputing that one bit, but the internal data, Facebook's own research that they've done themselves and that they are aware of shows that they are contributing, their practices, their algorithm is contributing significantly to making that problem much worse among that group. And their reaction to that is, we don't give a fuck.
I think they have the right to have that reaction. Like, where are the parents who are not enforcing their girls, their teenagers, to go on Instagram? Like, so I'm not on Instagram. You're on Instagram, but I think one of the big things is these filters you can put on pictures, so everybody looks glamorous and skinny and whatever.
Look, if you're ugly, you're still ugly, even after the filter.
How do you filter your meat?
Well, I don't know. I mean, listen, I can only assume you didn't understand my point. Because,
I understand your point.
I mean, I just don't think that's the right reaction to it. Right?
How is it not the right reaction? I'm just responding. In other words, Instagram is telling us what we already know. You're right, folks.
This should be outraged by the fact that through their own data, not somebody from the outside coming and saying, "Hey, Facebook, you're doing bad things." Their own data.
Their own data says, "Hey,"
and they are saying, "Don't tell anybody about it. Don't say anything about this. We're not going to change anything. We know we're causing this, but we're not going to do anything to make it better." No, that's not right.
How are they causing it?
Their data. Listen. This is not rocket science. Their data, their research about this issue in particular. Let's talk about teenage girls.
Yes.
And their eating disorders and body dysmorphication and suicide and so forth. Facebook's own internal research data comes back to them, and the results are Facebook and the algorithms that Facebook uses is significantly making this problem worse among teenage girls and whatever. And their reaction is, we don't care. That's not right. And I don't care how you couch it. There's nothing can make that all right. They have in their internal stuff, which has now been made public, their reaction was, don't say anything about it. Because if we make any changes, we'll have less engagement. No matter how much we're contributing to this very bad problem through the use of our algorithm, we don't care.
I believe you. I believe that's what it said. I believe that was what their reaction was.
So how do you figure that's okay?
Because I guess I go back to what I always say. It's personal responsibility. Why would you let your kids go on a platform if you know that shit is happening? It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, okay.
I mean, so what you're saying is because Facebook or Instagram or Facebook or both,
it's all the same.
They're saying, hey, we're monitoring what's happening with these users. We see, teenage suicide, and we know this, and we. So
you're restating what I just said. So go ahead. Let's see if the way you restated is what I said or not.
Yeah. So they decided to sweep it under the rug because they revealed this data and they didn't want to make any changes to disengage users. So they swept it under the rug and they told people not to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you said.
Right.
I believe you. I believe that is what happened.
Yeah.
But that's not causing the problem. It's people are assholes and they're on these platforms.
It's causing the part of the problem that their own research says is their fault.
Their own research says it's their fault. But what you're saying is just
it's not correct. I don't know how to put this. You're good right up until you say that. It's like somebody saying, well, because teenage girls would have some amount of body dysmorphication or eating disorders or something, even if Facebook didn't exist, then it doesn't matter how much worse Facebook makes it. They have no responsibility.
Well, what's their responsibility?
To stop making it worse.
Well, so what did it reveal about what they were doing to make it worse?
What difference does it make?
If you don't know how to...
The research...
It doesn't make any sense.
Look, let's break it down, Travis. The research is telling Facebook or Mark Zuckerberg that their algorithm and the way it works is making this existing problem significantly worse. Don't you think that once they receive that research, that they should then stop making it significantly worse?
So what is it that they are doing that's making it significantly worse?
I'm not an algorithm. I mean, you're asking me a question. The fact of whether I can answer that question or not doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. I don't understand how algorithms work.
I know you don't.
Okay. But the question is not how does it work? The question is, should they not stop doing it if their own research, or anybody's research for that matter, but especially their own, is telling them, hey, what you're doing, your policy, your algorithm, what Facebook does is significantly making this problem worse among this group. And you're trying to tell me that you're okay with them just saying, yeah, we don't care, and we're just going to keep doing it.
I guess I am. I guess I fail to understand what it is that their data could have possibly revealed to where they said we can do something other than turn it off.
Look, for the sake of this conversation, you have to accept the premise. And they're not disputing any of this either. They're not disputing that their research isn't saying what it said. They can't. The documents are there. It's their own research. They've been turned over to the authorities, to the public, to the Congress. It's not a discussion about whether they're doing it. They are doing it, and it is making it worse.
I'm with you there.
And what we're talking about is whether it's okay for them to say, we're not changing anything. We're not going to.
And that's what I'm saying.
Care.
Yes, because I don't know what this data says. I haven't read it. But it does matter. I'm giving you my opinion. I don't give a fuck what their report says. I'm just responding to what you're saying. And what I'm struggling to understand is what could they possibly do to make it better other than shut it off?
They could stop the algorithm from doing what the research says it's doing that's making the problem worse. What part of that don't you understand?
That's the exact part I don't understand. What could it possibly say that they're doing? Like, are they? I know you don't know. I'm not asking you for the answer, but it's saying something like, what? It's only posting what?
Think about it, dude. That's not a valid question.
It is valid. It just goes back to it's just everything I believe, which is
maybe you can help me understand what the hell you're saying, because for me that question in this discussion is not valid. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. I mean, so try to help me understand.
It is
if you're going to stand by it.
I am standing by it. Listen,
then help me understand.
If you don't want to get eaten by piranhas, don't go in the river where there's piranhas. That's all I'm saying. I don't dispute the fact that there was some investigation that revealed they have algorithms that make people feel worse about themselves. I'm sure that's the case. But I think what you're saying is, hey, Facebook knew about it, or Instagram knew about it, and they decided that they weren't going to do shit about it because they make money doing things the way they're doing it, and they kept things going the way that they always did, right? That's the gist of what you're saying?
Uh-huh.
And I'm going, no shit. Of course bad shit happens on there. Why would you go on there?
Wow.
Right?
Well, I don't know. I'll just accept what you're saying, but I mean, I don't think that's. I mean, there are no rules to how we discuss things, but I mean, if you're just going to invalidate part of a conversation by saying, "Well," I don't. I mean,
I'm not invalidating.
It's not whether people should use Facebook or not. That's not what we're talking about. The question is whether Facebook, as a publicly held company, as a huge platform with significant impact on society, becomes informed through their own internal research that their policies vis-a-vis their algorithm is causing damage to the users of their product, and their reaction is, we don't care, that you're saying that's totally all right.
Yeah.
That the answer is you shouldn't be on there in the first place.
That's my answer.
I mean, I get that as a piece of advice, but that is not addressing.
Let me ask you.
That's not addressing the question about whether that is okay or
is
not.
You're
saying
do you
it's
give
okay for them to do that.
So let me answer your question with a question. Do you give this more weight because they're a publicly traded company or no?
It's only part of it, but I mean, they have millions and millions of users, right? And they are functioning in the United States unregulated, okay? And they want to continue to do that. And the question is, well, maybe they need to be regulated because they are fucking irresponsible. And that's when things need to be regulated. And this whole thing about this whistleblower and what has been revealed now, and now with tens of thousands of documents to back it up, not just opinion or hearsay, is that I'm trying to understand how your reaction can be, well, they bear no responsibility for anything. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I get it. I know. I get it. Doesn't make any sense to you. I'm struggling to explain myself any other way than I keep saying it.
So when does somebody have responsibility?
That's a great question, because I think the difference is how we view this. I don't view Facebook as a product. I view it as a platform, and this goes to all the Russia shit and everything we've ever talked about. And the question always is, what is Facebook's responsibility to regulate and to filter content that goes on their platform? And I always go back to, I don't have the answer. I think if you don't want to subject yourself to that shit, or your kids or anybody else, don't go on the platform. If you don't want your kids to watch R-rated movies, don't let them watch it. You, as an adult, the bad shit that is out there in the world. You have a responsibility. That's the regulation, to make sure that kids don't go on there. And if you're an adult and you don't like hearing that you're not beautiful on Instagram, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, I understand your general outlook about social media, and I don't necessarily disagree with any of that, but your refusal to acknowledge the responsibility that they have, because here's why they have responsibility, because they're making billions of dollars doing it. And the cost is the safety of the users that are going on the platform.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know. I'm not as passionate about it as you. I mean, let me say this.
If your kids are going to school,
yeah,
and you find out that the source material that they're being taught is purposely being generated in a way to make them angry, and then there's actual verified research done by the school that shows that the source material they're teaching your children is causing them to commit suicide, and your reaction is, don't go to school?
Yeah, but that's different. My kids have to go to school.
How's it different?
They have to go to school. They have to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. If I find out that they're teaching my kids through some type of math formula that's going to make their heads go crazy to purposely, make them suicidal, yeah, of course I'd be angry, but that's different.
So
they're going on there to learn 2 + 2 = 4.
So your contention is that anybody that uses social media does it voluntarily. So the platforms should not have any responsibility at all for anything.
That's pretty much what I'm saying, with one caveat, and that is if they're a publicly traded company, I'm with you that they have to abide by whatever regulations come with being a publicly traded company and to investors and all that shit.
Well, that's not even close to my main concern.
I get it.
Right.
But the rest of it, yes. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would go on that shit.
Okay, well, let's move on, because there's no sense discussing it.
I guess, but I mean, listen.
If that's how you look at it.
Why, if you're the one who maintains that they're such a net negative for society, right? Those are your words.
Yeah.
Why are you on Instagram? Like, what good, I'm asking you personally, what good do you get out of it?
I get to share some of my pictures easily with some of my relatives.
And they get to see yours.
Yeah. I mean, there are other ways to do it, too. And sometimes I hashtag and do things so that other people can see it, and I can see what kind of reactions that I get from that. But I'm not in any of the groups that's being negatively affected.
I know,
right?
but that's a positive thing.
I would like Instagram to not be part of these problems, but I don't. That doesn't matter to you, so I get it.
I mean, I just what you just described is not a negative experience, right? You're getting some pleasure out of sharing your photos. You're connecting with family. There's positive for you.
I didn't say anything was negative for me.
I know, but to others.
But I am outraged that this company, and listen, if it goes unanswered, I might stop using Instagram. I mean, there's a lot of different ways for me to do that, right? But I don't think it's going to go unanswered. I don't think your outlook is really the one that's going to prevail. I just don't think that's the way society works.
Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying I don't think they should do something. I don't think they should be forced to do something. And maybe that's different. I don't know. Maybe in your eyes it's the same. But I get what you're saying. Listen, uncover
when you're making millions, billions of dollars on the American public, you have responsibilities. And I don't care what you say about it. They have responsibilities not to do things that are harmful to the public, and they have that responsibility. If for no other reason, forget the publicly trading, because they're making a mint doing it, and we should not, as a society, allow them to make billions of dollars on the American public and damage them at the same time on purpose, knowingly.
I get it.
That is not.
But it's not as cut and dry as that. There's so many other examples I can.
Goddamn cut and dry.
It's not. There's so many other examples I can think of that
like what?
Like strip clubs. Are strip clubs good for society? And these, young teenage girls, these dysfunctional females with daddy issues who end up on the stripper pole. And they go in there and just,
I'm going to plead the fifth.
But you know what I mean? There's like so many things you can think of that certainly aren't, you wouldn't say are good for society, but they're allowed to exist. They're allowed to make money.
They're not making billions of dollars.
Maybe they're making hundreds of thousands. What's the difference?
I mean, the responsibility, the amount of responsibility kind of comes along.
Casinos. Are casinos good for society?
Well, no, not particularly.
But they got to be making millions to build those buildings.
These are terrible examples.
They're fantastic examples. They're the same thing.
And what are they supposed to be examples of? I don't understand.
Is gambling not an addictive, what do you call it, activity, something?
It is addictive.
So it's not good for
some
people.
Yeah.
Right. So are casinos preying on people by having these large, flashy buildings to lure you in to possibly win money? Is that good?
It's the most highly regulated industry on the fucking planet.
I get, but one of the regulations, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't providing people with gambling counseling so you don't gamble anymore.
Look, you are comparing the most regulated industry with the most unregulated industry. It's apples and oranges, and there's no, I mean, I don't see any comparison that you can make in regards to the two. Any analogy between the two.
You don't see that analogy? That the casinos know that having people in their chairs plumping away.
Listen, society a long time ago recognized gambling is not a good thing. And so because of that, it is highly regulated.
What are the things?
Exactly what I'm saying needs to happen to Facebook.
Give me an example.
So your analogy is proving my point.
So I don't give me an example.
Is that frustrating or what?
No, I don't think it proves your point at all. Give me. I recognize the gambling industry is highly regulated. Give me an example of a regulation that's done to protect the gamblers.
Every single gaming regulation there is, wherever it's allowed, is designed to in some way protect the gamblers.
Except the one thing that keeps them in the chair long enough to keep gambling. All I'm saying is there's nothing that regulates how long you can gamble or be exposed to the evils of the casino. And I get it. So I recognize they're two totally different industries. But I'm just saying there are things that exist out there that aren't for the protection of the user.
That point's meaningless to me.
How is it not? How is it meaningless? It's the same.
I don't understand how that, Trav. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I do not see how that statement. There are things out there that are not meant to protect. I don't even know what. I don't know what do you. How does that have anything to do with?
You made a point that made me react to it, which was they have a responsibility because they're making billions of dollars off of the user.
Well, yeah. So what?
So there are other things. The two examples I just cited, where there are industries and businesses making money off of people that aren't good, that are nefarious, to use your word. That's all I'm saying.
And they're highly regulated.
I give you that. I understand they're highly regulated, but there's nothing in there to protect the user. Is what I'm saying.
The regulation that's there is there to protect. You don't look. You want to gamble. You have to go to Las Vegas or someplace to do it. You have to go to an Indian casino. These are the regulations that protect, so there aren't casinos on every street corner, because that's the way we've regulated
But
it.
Nothing protects you from how long you can gamble or how much of your money you.
What difference does that make? So what?
It makes all the difference.
Listen, you can keep saying that, buddy, but I'm going to need you to make a point.
That's the point.
What is
the point? Is that there are other businesses that are allowed to exist, for lack of a better word, that make money off of people.
But I'm not advocating that Facebook should not be allowed to exist. So that's a moot point.
So what
I'm advocating that Facebook needs to be regulated.
How should they be regulated?
Along the lines.
What industry are they in? By the way,
I mean, you're the example you brought up is the best one I could possibly think of.
I thought so. You told me it was a shit example.
Gambling is the perfect example of something that we know is dangerous, and so because of that, we as a society regulate it.
What industry would you put Facebook in?
It's a community. It's a platform.
Entertainment.
It's a social media platform.
Is that an industry on its own? So
I think
social
so.
media.
Yeah.
So are there other social media regulations that exist?
No, not. This is part of the point. The whole thing is new enough that regulations have not been formulated around it. And the argument has been all along from all of the tech platforms, hey, you can trust us. We're here for the good. We're here for the public interest. We're here. We're a good thing. We're going to make it easy for you to stay in touch with your family, make it easier for you to stay in touch with world events, blah, blah, blah. Google is famous for being in a Senate hearing saying, listen, we're the good guys. You can trust us. Well, that's all fine. But this event to this whistleblower is proof positive that, at least as far as Facebook goes, that's a lie. And you cannot trust them. And if you cannot trust them, then you need to regulate them.
I struggle to think about what type of regulations you could put in place that would change anything, though.
I don't necessarily have the answer to that. I'm not a regulator. But the point I'm trying to make, Travis, is that they have proven with their own internal documents that they are lying to us, and
I get
it. We can't trust them. That the public cannot trust Facebook. They are not trustworthy. WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and whatever other companies they own, they are not trustworthy. They've proven to the public, that to society, that given the chance, they will lie to us and operate with only greed as their only guiding factor. And if that's not the perfect, most sensible reason why something needs to be regulated, it's not just regulation for the sake of doing it. It's because there's a problem here.
Listen, I don't disagree with any of the backstory of this, what you said and what they knew and all of that stuff. I don't disagree with any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I completely disagree with is what to do about it, and the fact that that's somehow a surprise. Like, I don't know. I just think that that's one of those things that if you go on there, you know what you're going to get. And in your case, you know what you're going to get. When you go on Instagram, you have a user experience that is unique to you. It does for you what you want it to do and the people that you want to share with. Mm-hmm. And you have that expectation. To other people, I don't know. I can't think of what type of regulations would be put in place that would make it a safer environment, whether Facebook is hiding shit or they're deliberately trying to make us turn against each other. I don't know how you fix it.
Well, they are deliberately making us turn against each other. They're knowingly doing
Are they doing this right now to you and I?
No, they're not.
When you went on this morning, was that the goal? Before Facebook went offline, it was blurry lines.
I think this is the way. This is a spirited conversation about this issue. Everything's not crystal clear. So I hope that, I hope some of what I'm trying to say is getting through here. I'm hearing you, my friend, but I guess my bigger issue is that I think it's not a good idea to just stop giving a shit about things like this when you find out about them, because it happens a lot, right? And so I don't know. I just don't think that that's the answer, right? That, hey, just buyer beware. Just, you shouldn't, if you don't want to, I mean,
that's kind of how I'm like, for me, I really push back against, big, big government, big regulation, the nanny state. And what I really hear is that what we need is more of the nanny state. We need more big government to fix the evils of Facebook. And that's what I always just rubs me the wrong way. I'm not saying you're saying that, but that's what I hear when I hear these news stories and what the solutions are.
Well, I mean, it's a hard one. It's a hard discussion, and we live it, in the real world. And so I don't blame you, actually. I mean, I think I have an understanding that I don't want to get into too much on the air, but some things need regulation and some things don't. And when something just slaps you in the face, sits up and says, hey, I've been fucking you all along, and you're just too stupid to figure it out, then I think we need to slap them back.
And my reaction to that is, if I find out someone's been fucking me the whole time, I say, that's it, we're done. Not, I'm going to come back so you can fuck me a little less with some regulation mixed in.
Me pulling off of Instagram won't fix that problem.
I get it.
Right?
But if you were somebody who was negatively affected by it, it would fix it for you. Just like if you suffered from a gambling problem, you not gambling isn't going to close the casinos.
You can't listen, I don't know, is that the libertarian thing that you're trying to say? Just no regulations because that thinking would just eliminate it all, right? So are you saying no laws, no regulations, no nothing?
Very few. No, I get it. I mean, so listen, I'm taking what you're saying for face value, that Facebook and Instagram are completely unregulated, and they're in an industry unto themselves with social media that they, by and large, created and monopolize.
Yeah.
So we're in uncharted territory, and the parallels could be things like the gaming industry that was once that way, controlled by the mafia, and since
no regulation.
Right, and since has all kinds of regulation. But again, I think I can pick that argument apart by the evils of the gaming industry and other examples like it. And I also just can't think of what you could possibly do to social media to make it safer or better.
Well, I mean, I think this is a good examination of what's going on with Facebook. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, this happened last night on 60 Minutes is when it really got broke. It's all over the news. We'll see what happens. I think it's definitely social media regulations are definitely coming. We just have to see, how it comes. And then mixed in with that is all the antitrust stuff that we've talked about quite a bit in the past. And I think that that is a separate issue, right? That they're related because of the size and power of things, but there's more to it. And there's going to be, don't forget that there's a regulation in place that gives social media this license to be completely without responsibility. It's something called 230, and it means that because they're platforms and not news organizations, they're not liable for what goes out over their platform. So that is something that we gave them 15 years ago, and they apparently have decided to take that trust, right, from the United States public and shit all over it and lie to us about it. So I think that's when antitrust comes.
So you think
into
they should
play.
lose that protection?
Well, I think 230 needs to be changed. I think that as a blanket protection against liability for what they do, which is what they cite now, I think maybe it's flawed, right? And so I've always been in favor of maintaining 230, but they are taking advantage of it, and that's just, that's kind of.
So what do you mean? Like, let's say CBS News has an anchor that makes an opinion, then they are somehow liable if that goes out on their airways because they're a news organization, or if they interview somebody that says something, or both.
I don't know. I think it has to do with publishing, right? More than television news. I mean, they're governed by public airwave, regulations and things. I don't think 230 applies to it doesn't apply to news channels and things like that. It's tech, it's social media platforms is specifically. So yeah, they are not liable for. I mean, they are liable for what they put out on their air. Newspapers are liable for what they publish, right? So if you publish something, you better have sources, right, that can prove it. That can
and
back
I
it
think
up.
we've talked about this
You
too.
could label it as opinion. That's a different story. But YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Parler and Getter and all the rest of them, right? Which I'm getting no traction on. So,
You and Donald Trump both.
yeah. And
But I think I agree with the 230, though, without really knowing much about it. I mean, what I've always maintained is if I say something on Twitter, Twitter shouldn't be responsible for what I say. But if Twitter puts out a tweet or Jack Dorsey tweets something, then that's different. That's coming from the platform.
what we're saying is when I say what we're saying, so on the other side of that argument, I don't disagree with that at all. I don't think that Twitter or YouTube specifically should be liable for the content that you put on the platform, but they need to be liable for the use of their algorithms to pump subsequent material to your feed. That is them and needs to be their responsibility. So that's where the difference is, right? That is not the algorithms they use to manipulate the users into engagement. They are responsible for that, and they need to be held responsible for it. And that's where the regulation needs to come in. So it's not the same thing, right?
You like responsibility.
Well, yeah. I'm always surprised when you don't. I mean, the core basis of all this stuff is, you got to take responsibility for stuff. So, how you ascertain responsibility is important, right? And so, I mean, I don't understand how you relieve Facebook specifically of responsibility for what they're doing with their algorithm purposely, right? Especially when it seems that the sole motivation for them is profit, which is not a bad in and of itself motivation, but it can never be the only.
Yeah.
All corporations, all businesses in this country have a responsibility to balance their profit motive with their social responsibility. And any argument to the contrary, I just don't accept.
I think with Facebook in particular, part of my reaction is none of it is a surprise to me. I have a.
I don't want you to be surprised. I want you to
be outraged.
I want you to be outraged now that, look, when it was just hearsay and nonsense and from their competitor, or it's just Twitter saying
who's their competitor?
Well, Twitter or any number of other platforms, right? That theoretically would be their competitors, right? Until they buy them and shut them down in their monopolistic way. But
are they not? I mean, can you consider them a monopoly if Twitter is a bona fide competitor?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that what makes you a monopoly is when you behave in monopolistic ways. So, if you're not the sole provider or something, but you're the only significant provider, and you use that power as a club, then I think then you get sucked into that. But Yeah, I think that it's the outrage that I want to see from people in general. I mean, I want to see a public backlash to Facebook for lying to us.
But the backlash that you seek and that is maybe warranted can't come from regulation. It can't come from government. It has to come from people who just say, fuck it, we're not going on there. That would effectively kill Facebook. They wouldn't have any ad revenue if no one was on there buying shit or whatever, buying from whatever their sponsors are.
I don't think social media platforms are going anywhere, and I don't think that I mean, yeah, I understand that point you just made, which is maybe why we were having the disconnect before. You're like, hey, my answer, get off the platform, is the ultimate answer, right? It would shut them down, and it would
That's
stop.
The ultimate thing that would shut them down.
But that's not what I'm after, because there'll just be some other thing to take their place.
And that's what's going to happen.
And something else will take their place, and they'll be unregulated, and they'll do the same thing.
But
so that's
the truth
not
is,
an answer.
what I think's happening with social media, like a Facebook in particular, is much like what's happening with our choices of TV entertainment that we've talked about, where people are cutting the cord and you're streaming, but you're having to buy each one, right? You buy Discovery Plus, you buy HBO.
Listen, I'm going to use the bully pulpit here. Not that, I don't know. Is anybody listening? Hello? Is anybody out?
There will be a quiz at the end of this episode.
AT&T.
Which you need to get rid of.
Yeah, which I'm much closer, okay? And if anybody out there is hearing this, pass it on. But you motherfuckers turned off Bloomberg television on my AT&T feed. I watch it every goddamn day.
What you mean they turned it off just for you?
Just for everybody.
Well,
right?
They probably lost the licensing to it.
They did. They could not come to an agreement with them for whatever the reason is.
Money.
I don't care.
Money. That's the answer.
Look, that's their problem, not mine, okay? They're making me pay for it, right, by cutting off with no notice. First off, I agreed to pay AT&T a specified amount of money for a group of products, and that was part of it. So I don't see these fucking assholes sending me back any refund.
Is this the first time this has ever happened to you?
No, but it's the first time that it wasn't,
a channel you cared
Bravo
about.
or Logo or some shit I don't watch, right? And so I like Bloomberg television, right? I watch it a lot, and it would be the same for you if they just arbitrarily cut off CNBC.
They did. So we're streaming this here in the studio on YouTube TV. Okay, so this is the live feed. We always have CNBC on in the studio when you come in here.
And this is YouTube?
YouTube TV.
Oh, okay.
So I have a monthly subscription, and that's fucking tripled since I first got it.
Oh, wow.
But it has all the channel, the local channels and cable channels. There's a whole lineup of what you get. But NBC Universal, I just got an email the other day that said, we're pleased to announce that we have salvaged the relationship, which I think it was NBC Universal, that will continue to stream their channels effective midnight tonight. In other words, we didn't lose a beat, it didn't cancel, but it was on the verge of being dropped.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it. They were working out contract negotiations behind the scenes, and then here it is. But that shit happens all the time.
Well, I'm pissed. And
time to leave.
And so it's just a long line of issues with AT&T. So if anybody out there is listening, you know how to reach me. So.
I would offer you my password, but that would be immoral.
To what? Well, I'm definitely going to check out YouTube TV. I mean, I don't know that it'll be any better one way or the other.
You can get YouTube TV. I think competes with Hulu for live.
I don't have it. I have Hulu now,
but
I don't have any live television.
I think you got to pay for it. There's like a free version and a paid for version.
Yeah.
So you can look up, and then maybe there's others, but Hulu and YouTube TV are the two big ones. You can look at their channel lineups to see which package you get with which provider because they're different. But I'm pretty sure I think they both have Bloomberg.
Do they?
I think so.
Well, I mean, if I can find I could just go to Bloomberg, but they want some kind of ridiculous subscription amount just to get Bloomberg. And yeah, I like it as a TV channel that's there to watch, but I'm not paying separately for it. So
this here, I brought that up by way of social media comparison because instead of buying all of your content on Facebook or on Uverse that you have for your TV, we're going out to, piecemeal that together by, going get the Disney app, the Discovery app, the Bloomberg app, whatever, to just go to the content that is specific for what you're looking for. And I can see that is where social media eventually evolves to, where maybe that's what something like Getter is, where is the point that it's all a group of people who think the same thing, who are like, Trump people and they're anti-Democrats, or, maybe it's a smaller audience, but it's a place where they all think the same thing.
Well, currently social media platforms do all appear to be running independently, right? There's no bundle, like there's no AT&T bundle for, all these different
all
social media
the platforms.
No, I don't know of anything like that. You go download Facebook or Getter or whatever. It's an app on your phone, right? It's a little different. I don't know where it's going.
Do you remember before, like, your famous America Online guy, AOL, but before AOL, do you remember what was before that? That was the big thing?
Before AOL, no.
There was something called Prodigy. And Prodigy was like a web browser, and you went on there, and most people were doing, like, remember chat rooms?
Yeah.
And you'd go on and
you'd before my time.
Look at a chat room, be like, the Rolling Stones. So you go in this, and all people talking about Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
Or whatever subject you were interested in. And then come to find out that there was fucking perverts who were using these chat rooms and pretending to be people that they weren't to, get little children into back rooms so they could do bad shit to them. And that was like...
But, even in their heyday, those things were not the platforms that the social media platforms are now.
Of course.
The big ones, right?
Because it was all dial-up, and it took forever to type a message.
Yeah. Because there's, there are still chat rooms or blogs or something, right? They're still out there. I
guess.
But they don't do shit. You don't reach anybody on it, right?
Who knows?
There's something else called, I forgot it. There are some fledgling internet. They're really just glorified blogs, I think. Whatever the hell Trump was on for a little while until he shut it down because it was such an embarrassment.
Do we think so? I don't even know if Facebook is still offline as of now. Let's say it's gone for a couple of days. Are we going to be able to reevaluate and say, look at the positives that this brought to society by not having Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp with us for the last couple of days?
It looks like it's back.
Oh, bummer.
So here's all my inflammatory content on my feed. It's back. I don't know. I don't know what would happen if you went a couple weeks without it, right? A lot of people would stop using it and figure out, oh, my life is better. Look,
is that the solution, like the annual purge? Maybe every 2 weeks without social media?
I don't know. I never watched any of those movies. There's some string of movies.
They say there's something
Purge.
therapeutic about it.
I don't know. I don't consider the idea of social media to be bad. It's just the way it's being executed is just fucked up. It's a mess. I just think that it's unfortunate because there's a lot of really good thing could be really a good force for a lot of good things. Could be helpful to democracy. There's a lot of good things, but we have to pay attention. So
speaking of the democracy, the other news story was that I saw this weekend. The Supreme Court is back in session I guess in person for the first time in 18 months. Is that right?
Yeah, they're back in session. So, and they've got they've already announced
it was
bunch
like
of cases are going
guns, Jesus, and abortion.
Yeah,
like
they're going to
big things they're going to talk about.
They're going to take take up the 16-week or 15-week abortion limit in what state is it? Missouri, I think, or something.
What's the Roe versus Wade timeline? You have abortion protections until what point?
It's like 28 weeks.
28 weeks.
Yeah. And so,
is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And then it's third trimester. So whatever that is. And then So this one in, God damn it, is it Mississippi or I can't remember if it's Mississippi. Or,
it's one of your favorite southern states.
It's another one. Anyway, so it's a direct attack on Roe versus Wade.
Different than the Texas one?
Yeah, different. I mean, I don't think it has this. The bad news is, so I heard something I didn't know. It only takes 4 of the 9 justices to vote yes to take a case on.
To hear a case.
To hear a case. So
that's good.
That means there's at least 4. So the lower courts on the Mississippi case on the 15-week ban, the lower courts have all said no. You can't do that. And
you can't place a ban on it?
You can't, because it's in conflict with Roe versus Wade.
So why does the Supreme Court even need to hear it?
Well, because 4 of the justices apparently think that the lower courts have got it wrong.
I see.
That's why they're taking the case. So that ain't going to be 4 of the liberal justices.
So procedurally then, if you hear this case, let's say these 4 justices bring the case to the Supreme Court, it gets heard, and with the conservative majority on the court, they rule that these lower courts got it wrong.
Then they're going to let the Mississippi law go.
But in effect, then isn't it still in conflict with Roe versus Wade? Like procedurally, don't you have to undo Roe versus Wade before you can greenlight this Missouri law?
I don't know. I mean, effectively, Roe versus Wade is overturned in Texas as of right now.
Yeah, but the way you described it, which I thought you did a great job with that's really not what they did. They attempted to go around Roe versus Wade by the government of Texas not saying it's illegal, but just by giving every citizen of Texas legal standing to sue because of your Jesus affiliation. Mm-hmm. But this would be different, right? I would think that in Missouri, is it true, or whatever state this is?
Missouri?
I don't know, but whatever state you're talking about,
some southern state within it might be Missouri.
Is it the state government that's trying to mandate abortion be illegal?
I think they're trying to put in a 15-week ban.
Yeah, how do you do that
at the state level? And I think they're going to say. I think it's a direct challenge to Roe versus Wade. So. If nobody on the court was interested in overturning Roe versus Wade, which we know is not the case, right? Because at least the last 3 for sure were handpicked Roe versus Wade, anti-Roe versus Wade people, even though they all lied about it in their confirmation hearings. So
you think justices,
if they didn't want to deal with it, if they didn't want to overturn it, they wouldn't take the case.
Are you in favor of Supreme Court justices during their nomination hearings to be hooked up to a lie detector?
Okay. Yes.
No?
I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know. It's broken, man. I mean, if
Kavanaugh raped that chick at the beer party, wouldn't it be cool to see him hooked up to the lie detector and have the fucking squiggly lines going off?
That would be great. It would be great. I mean, it would have been great to have the FBI investigate the other 20 allegations against him that were just pushed under the rug. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. How about Amy Coney Barrett? If she's a shill for the Catholic Church and wants to get rid of Roe versus Wade, it'd be nice to see her sweat a little bit with a lie detector.
She's a shill, all right, that's for sure. It's just the Supreme Court situation now is just really depressing for me to even contemplate. I think that it's a dangerous situation. I mean, I think it appears to be broke. So I think that's bad. I mean, so the Supreme Court favorability rating is 39%, historically low, never been recorded that low before. What does that mean? Does it mean anything? I mean,
it's indicative of the favorability rating of American government in general, I think.
Well, but here's the problem. If the Supreme Court favorability rating is that low, then that indicates that their decisions may not be accepted by the public in general, and that is chaos.
But is it so? I like that word. I think it could bring chaos, but go all the way back to maybe even one of the first Trump appointees, and we were talking about abortion, and I said I didn't think that the Supreme Court was going to hear Roe versus Wade, but even if they did, the American people would not let it be pulled through. They would literally rise up in the streets, which you could
think that's going to happen?
Well, I don't know. You could define that as chaos, but in this case, I would say it would be warranted.
I mean, I don't define, protests and things like that as chaos, right? Black Lives Matter protests last summer or whatever in the wake of George Floyd were not chaos, and I mean, when
chaos would be loss of control.
It's just
anarchy.
It's not. So here's the thing: there were 600 or 700 separate abortion rights or right to choose demonstrations over the weekend,
which did nothing.
Well, I mean, one set of protests, but it's the thing is you've got, this group, and really the group is women, and, they need to be the ones that and then drag some right-thinking men along with them and do what you said was going to happen, right? So the fact that, it didn't go ballistic this weekend, it did happen. I mean, 700 separate demonstrations is a lot.
It needs to go. It needs to go ballistic if these changes are if they're attempted to go through.
Well, I mean,
they're trying to make it happen.
That's the thing. I mean, so some kind of there'll need to be more than there's been as of yet to get a message across. I mean, it needs to hit the legislators, right?
We need we need keys to the government. Like in movies, you always see like these scenes where somebody gets the key to the city. There should be a key to government, and the citizens should take back the keys to government, like literally strip it away. Go into the Supreme Court building, take away their keys. You've lost your Supreme Court keys. We, the citizens, now take ownership.
Well, I mean, isn't the answer to a Supreme Court that's gone too far one way or the other legislation? I mean, isn't that really how it's supposed to
I don't
work?
know which one supersedes the other.
Well, I mean, they're co-equal, branches of the government, so.
I don't like that either.
The Supreme Court can only deal with constitutional questions.
So the Roe versus Wade outcome exists as what? Is it a statute?
It's based on privacy.
No, I know, but what is it?
And really, there's nothing in the Constitution about privacy.
Okay, so what's the protection? Privacy? Yeah,
privacy.
There is. Private property.
No, privacy, not the word private. In some.
Well, how can you have privacy if you don't have private property?
There's no. Well, I mean, somehow when Roe versus Wade happened, and I wasn't really following it back then, and I'm not an expert on it, but somehow was the Roe versus Wade decision was based on some kind of privacy issue, and that for the people that contend that Roe versus Wade has always been weak or bad law, that's the main criticism, right? It's
what
based
is it?
On privacy, and there's no such there's nothing in the Constitution about privacy.
I would argue that private property is privacy.
Okay, well, you're not going to argue with me because I don't get it. But
so Roe versus Wade is what? A law, a statute? What is it?
Well, it's a case. Right?
Yeah, but how does
settled law?
It's settled law.
Yeah, I mean it's a case that presents a precedent, and the precedent is that you can't outlaw abortion.
You can't. The government can't. Outlaw.
No state government can outlaw abortion before 28 weeks. Or the third
Isn't that
trimester.
like the gold standard when you have a Supreme Court ruling? That's the gold. That's like the highest ruling you can get as far as regulation, legislation, anything, right?
It is, but I mean, you can always make a law that will two couple things, right? You could always have a constitutional amendment. The Supreme Court, regardless of what it wants as a group or a body, is always going to be, they're always going to have to speak to the constitutionality of something, and so that only comes in two camps. If there's some kind of constitutional amendment, then that's part of the Constitution. They're going to have to interpret that. And short of that, they're going to have to interpret anything that comes before them. They're not really supposed to take anything that doesn't represent a constitutional question.
So the ruling of Roe versus Wade says it's unconstitutional for any federal or state government to tell you can't have an abortion prior to 28 weeks or whatever.
And it's loosely based on some kind of privacy.
So they would have to what? Untangle that part of it and say there is no privacy protection element here.
I mean, I guess if this case that they're going to take up about the 15-week issue in whatever state it is, if they find against the lower courts and say, yeah, you have they find for the state, then that is basically going to, I don't think they have to unwind anything. I mean, they're going to have to make somebody there, so they're going to, they vote or whatever it is, right?
I don't even know how you could do that.
So there's a majority of them, and they say, we find for the lower court, and someone's going to write the majority opinion, and someone's going to write the dissent, most likely. And, of course, as always is the case, the dissent is the only valuable part of any Supreme Court ruling, because you can always count that the dissent is going to become law down the road when they all wake the fuck up.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That doesn't logically make sense, because we have Roe versus Wade. So are you saying the dissent to Roe versus Wade is what's going to become law? Somebody dissented at the time, right?
It's a rule of thumb, not a
okay, just checking
you. Not a hard cosmic law. I don't know. I mean, I think that I think what we need is we need a federal law that says abortion is legal until the third trimester, and that's it. And it needs to be a federal law that overrides every state law in the country and isn't Roe versus Wade, right?
And can that happen procedurally? Can you have
you pass that law.
But how do we? Is it binding? How does that work? Well, we have other crazy shit we've talked about, like the marijuana thing. It's illegal federally, but it's legal in so many states. I mean, why can't we figure this shit out?
Well, that's kind of the other way, right?
It is the other way.
Their way it's illegal at the federal level, and states are trying to say, hey, so, and it doesn't appear that any federal authority wants to.
It doesn't appear that
take them on.
They have the authority to manage that.
Yeah, but
so let's say it's abortion. If you had some federal law that protected abortion rights,
well, then what would happen is you'd have a federal law, and I don't think it would be a constitutional question. So I don't think it would ever get to the Supreme Court.
So they're out of it.
I think,
but then Missouri could still say, "Hey, we're doing this."
Yeah, but then the courts, the lower courts would be the final word on it, right? If the highest lower court says, "Hey, there's a federal law that supersedes your stupid, backward, incestuous Mississippi fucking viewpoint on this. You're out. You can't do it." That's the end of it, because I don't think the Supreme Court can take it up, because that's not going to be a constitutional question. Unless somebody in Mississippi, and what are the chances some toothless, incestuous piece of shit from Mississippi is going to make a Supreme Court argument on the constitutionality?
If you're a toothless, incestuous piece of shit, why do you want to keep the child anyway?
Really, you want to talk about stopping people from doing things? Let's try to stop the population increase.
I would do that for the sole purpose of climate change.
Yeah, and put it on the back of the Southerners, because really they got it coming.
I mean, it is. So you said something, equal branches of government. Do you think that's part of our problem, that we have equal branches of government? Shouldn't one branch be the fucking final decider? Is that the problem?
Wow.
We can't get along because we all have an equal say. Somebody just pick the answer.
What did our buddy Doug pull out of the last podcast? It was something he was picking out something I was saying that I had heard somebody else say about. Oh shit! It's the big words. Remember? You don't remember?
Was it last episode?
Yeah, it was the last episode.
I don't remember.
Here, I'll find it real quick and tell you. Let's see here. Where is it?
Was he supporting you, or was he taking my side?
No, he was kind of making fun of me for using a lot of big words. Wait, it's almost here. I've almost got it. Big finish. Hold on. Oh, wow, this is terrible radio or whatever.
No, it's good for the audience.
Yeah, sure it is. I can't find it. It's too much pressure, and I don't have my glasses on. Oh, they're right here. Anyway, forget it. It's like it's I don't know. I mean, I just think that it would be great that we could settle this issue. But here's the problem, right? I think that a third of the country doesn't want abortion to be legal. And so I think fully 2/3 of the country thinks it should be legal. And so, but that represents a problem when a full third of the country is not going to let it rest. So I think they're going to keep.
But do you think that number is growing or shrinking?
I don't think it's growing.
I don't
to
either.
Be honest with you,
I think that is a religious. I think it's coming from the religious base. I think that third or whatever the number is, I think it's some backwards fucking religious belief.
It is. And I could probably easily agree with that critique of it. Yeah, I just think that there's a third of the country that, probably mostly for religious reasons, and because a third of the country just wants to control everything. I mean, that's just. They just think their shit is the right way.
And that's the thing. You got to have the libertarian point of view. And as I always say, I'm not a party member. I'm a libertarian with a lowercase l.
Uh-huh.
But it comes from the belief of leaving people alone. Did you find it?
Yeah. Here's the phrase that I was having so much fun with last episode. I got to read it. Autocratic authoritarian. Authoritarian. Autocratic authoritarian. He thought that was pretty. What did he say? 22-point word score. I don't have the same kind of phrase for this. Well, there's the Supreme Court.
Back in action. I don't know. I think
the debt ceiling.
Is he crying?
No.
It looked like he was crying.
No, it's raining money.
Oh.
Yeah, I just think that. Oh wow, they're just going through the topics here.
The point is that
Pandora Papers.
It is, Pandora Papers, not files.
Yeah, that's what it is, baby. Shepard Smith.
Yeah, this is the news that nobody watches because it doesn't bleed.
This is the good. Well, I mean, he's not always right either, as I've indicated in the past. But at least he's trying.
Guy's wearing way too much makeup.
It just his face looks tight.
Is he getting a car wreck or something? No, he's fucking hatchet job.
No, I don't know. He had too many years on Fox News.
Oh my God.
Wow. Where are we at on time? Are we almost done?
Well, we probably both have to pee. But
okay, believe it or not.
I don't believe it.
You got to. I can vamp while you're gone. Oh, I should probably wrap it up. But seems like there was a lot we didn't cover, but because we really spent a lot of time on Facebook. But I think it was worth it. For me, just to recap a little bit, that was a good conversation. I'm going to think about all the things we talked about. All I know is when you're that stubborn on a point, I have to go back and kind of review why, because I know it won't just be out of nowhere. So something about that is certainly in your craw, and I really don't think you were disagreeing with me in as much as your solution is get the hell off Facebook if you don't like what's going on.
Well, that is the lens that I look through everything. We could agree on the points, we could disagree on the points, but ultimately I don't care other than what are we going to do about it.
Yeah.
To me, life is about a series of choices towards how do we solve problems, whether that's, I like to look at problems as they come up like puzzles, right? It's like, how am I going to solve this puzzle? How am I going to get out of this challenge, this jam? It's not as if, I have this rosy vision of reality that I wake up and there's no problems. A wise man once told me, if you wake up in the morning, you're going to have problems. So I anticipate the
I
problems.
thought it was going to be, if you wake up, everything else is gravy, but that's my outlook.
No, if and when you wake up, you're going to have problems.
If you wake up.
What does life throw at you? How are you going to fix it? And a lot of it just comes down to being civil, understanding that people are different, and that's the point. Let people be different. Let them have their different opinions. But people are fucking cranky and crotchety. Like, I hate to say it, it's your generation.
Yeah.
They don't hold doors open for people. There's a thing.
I do.
You do.
Oh, okay.
There is a thing that is happening more than I've ever seen before, and I don't know why, and it's your generation. They do not look when they cross the street or even in the parking lot. They get their basket and they push across to go to the door of the grocery store. They don't look when they are they don't look in the aisle when they turn around. What the fuck is going on?
I don't know. I'm going to keep an eye out for that and see if I can spot it happening in real life. I do see a lot of people of all generations walking across the street or down an aisle or in Costco or wherever looking at their motherfucking phone.
Right.
And I'm sick of that. I just want to slap the phone out of their hand and punch them in the face.
It's like Facebook. If you cross the street and you don't look and I hit you, I'll probably be guilty because I ran you over with a car, but you're dead. So what can I say?
Here's the answer. Don't cross the street, folks. That's the answer. So I think there she is right there. Facebook whistleblower.
She looks angry.
Here it is. Facebook puts profits over public safety. I couldn't have said it better myself, even though I tried.
And we could take that banner down and just say no shit.
And then move on.
All right, let's move on, my friend.
All right. See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.